Hello from T-Mobile Park, Seattle Kraken fans. The Winter Classic is here. Happy New Year. We're ready to go in place in our seats for the Winter Classic. We're going to go over everything from the walk-in fits to what the field looks like, and of course, the 3 keys to today's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. That and more coming up on this live episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Once again, Happy New Year, Seattle hockey fans. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, coming to you live from one of the press areas for the Winter Classic. I've been here since Thursday, giving you coverage. If you haven't followed us on social media, make sure you do that. And of course, on YouTube, where I'll continue to post more bonus content even after we finish this live episode. Excuse me. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Of course, you know that the NFL season is starting to get to the playoffs, but either way, the deals are hot over at FanDuel.com. Head to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to make your first bet a good one. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, Kraken fans, as you can probably hear my voice going a little bit, the temperature has dropped here. Maybe not so good for my sore throat, but perfect for this Winter Classic. When I got here on Thursday, the sun was out. It was so nice and warm. And although that was perfect weather for me, not so great for hockey and trying to keep the ice right here that I'm looking at nice conditions. We heard from the Seattle Kraken yesterday. They felt the ice was a little bit sticky, and Vince Dunn absolutely did not like the glare, but he was rocking the eye black. Said he'd never done it before and wasn't really convinced or sure that it would work. I can speak as a former baseball and softball outfielder. Eye black can only take you so far. I prefer wearing the glasses. And speaking of sunglasses, I know we had Yamamoto, Burakovsky wearing some pretty nice shades for the team's practice yesterday. That was right before, of course, they did the skate with families. It's been a really great time. Let me see if I can pull up Berkey for you. But it's been a really great time here, the lead up to the Winter Classic. And of course, there goes Berkey. Of course, the lead up to the Winter Classic included another overtime game, another 1-goal game, but this one went in the favor of the Seattle Kraken as they got that win over the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday. Now, Locked On Kraken was at that game, and what you heard from the team is that now they could start focusing on the Winter Classic and kind of the spectacle that is the Winter Classic. But if we really focus on the hockey for a minute for the Seattle Kraken, whether it's talking to Everett, whether you talk to Jordan Eberle, Everett fits you, Jordan Eberle, or just anyone really keeping up with the Seattle Kraken, a lot of people have been impressed with my favorite aspect of the game, and that's the Seattle Kraken defense, really kicking it up into gear. They have been supportive of, obviously, Chris Driedger in his game against Calgary. They have continued to be supportive of Joey Daccord, who we expect will get the start today. So it's just been a good set of hockey for the Seattle Kraken, and it's coming at a good time. We heard from Eberle the other day, and I mentioned this actually on the Locked On NHL show, which you should go check out after you listen to this one. But you know, this is a time in the year where the Seattle Kraken really needed to try and find their game. And all in all, I really think they have. If we just talk a little bit about the game against the Philadelphia Flyers, I think that after the first period, which is a little bit of a trend for the Seattle Kraken, but after the first period, they started settling in. In the first, Philadelphia owned the shots 11-5. Second period, in the second frame, you saw the Seattle Kraken strike back a little bit more consistently. They outshot the Flyers 9-4 in that period. And then we were just about even in the third. But as you can probably guess, the Flyers did score first in that game on Friday. That's been something that the Kraken really have been focusing on, is start on time and get ahead so that they are not chasing the game. That wasn't the case. It was actually a shorthanded goal by the Flyers. We talked about that, though, going into Friday's game, that Philadelphia, part of the reason that their PK is so successful is because they can take short and make shorthanded goal opportunities. And the Seattle Kraken wouldn't get on the board until the third period. Also a special teams goal, this time scoring on the power play, not getting scored on. And that was the one and only Vince Dunn. Oh, man, it was quite the shot. And that tied up the game. And then Justin Schultz, after being out of the lineup, returns and gets the game-winning goal. And before we move on, and I know the Locked on Kraken insiders, we've talked about this on subtext, but Riker Evans, won't see him on the Winter Classic roster. He was reassigned to Coachella Valley. I find this a little bit surprising. Now, that being said, we do know and we're expecting that there will be some guys back. We've already seen Andrei Burakovsky return. We've heard that Jaden Schwartz is close. He will not be participating on the ice in the Winter Classic, but and I have some video. I don't think I posted it on social media yet, but Jaden Schwartz was pretty aggressively practicing. We know that he's since taken off the red jersey, practice jersey, but I'm not sure that we'll see him in the lineup for today. But we'll go over lineups in a little bit. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What are you thinking about the fact that we don't get to see Riker Evans? We don't get to see him, not just in the Winter Classic, but with the Seattle Kraken. I thought he had a really good run, and it's unfortunate that we won't get to see him in a game like this, but hopefully we'll see him soon enough. Coming up next on this live edition of Locked on Kraken, I'm going to go over the projected lines. Now, I have this lineup sheet here, and I just want to remind you that this is definitely an NHL event. There's not much that's coming directly from the Seattle Kraken, but there's a few inconsistencies, certainly on the Kraken side from this projected lines roster, but I have a graphic from our Locked On team that I'll show you, and then I'll explain why I think maybe, we have to take this piece of paper at least with a grain of salt. That's coming up on this episode of Locked on Kraken. As I mentioned earlier on in the show, today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now, I mentioned that the NFL season is starting to slow down. We're getting into playoffs. And unfortunately, I know that Seahawks fans know that all too well. But don't fear. We've still got, of course, NHL, NBA. And there's so many ways that you can find the best bets available on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when they place any $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways, like I said, that you can engage. For example, you can take a look at today's odds for the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken. The money line has Vegas at a minus 140, the Seattle Kraken money line at a plus 116. The over is at 5.5 for Vegas to win this game, and the under is 5.5 for the Kraken. But there's the parlay builder, the monthly specials, and even Stanley Cup futures bets. So you want to check that all out at our friends at FanDuel. And so as I mentioned at the top of the show, best way to do that is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a layup. See what I did there? That's basketball. And coming up, we've got more to talk about the Winter Classic, projected lines, and all of that for you on Locked on Kraken. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked on Kraken, coming to you live from the Press Bridge at T-Mobile Park, which of course is hosting the 2024 NHL Winter Classic. And I mentioned this earlier, but make sure you check out Locked on NHL, which of course is a part of our Locked on Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. You can hear Gil and I talk about the Winter Classic. We actually recorded that yesterday, a little spoiler alert. And so the Seahawks game was going on. You could hear the raucous crowd. You could even hear some of the rehearsals for Winter Classic at times. So forgive my audio, but had a good time with Gil. So make sure you're listening and viewing on YouTube, Locked on Sports Today, and of course the Locked on NHL show. Now, I mentioned projected lines, and I'll throw up this graphic here for you. That I created, again, using our template here at Locked on Kraken. And once again, you'll see Burakovsky with his, I don't know, are these Oakleys? I can't tell. I think they're pretty sweet. But all right, here we go. This is on the screen for you if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, no worries. I will walk you through it. Now, these are the projected lines. Let me take this off the screen just for a moment. These are the projected lines. I got a copy of this from one of the, I think, the groups that's on the crew. So for the production. But I again, just want to go through them. There's a few inconsistencies from Friday's lineup. And the first one, actually, I'm going to show you that you might be able to see that they have Grubauer listed here. Now, I don't want you to get too excited, because if you've been listening or kind of taking in what a lot of other people here covering the Winter Classic have been showing, Philip Grubauer, we did have a great conversation with him yesterday in the Mariners locker room. And he said although he was really trying to push his timeline to make it for this game, he's not going to be available. Also, we heard from Dave Haxtell, who talked about not just Philip Grubauer, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and I'll show you a little video of the walk-ups for the Seattle Kraken, but he's still seen in a boot on crutches for the Seattle Kraken. I mentioned Jaden Schwartz. He is not expected to be available tonight. So it's unfortunate. And of course, Riker Evans not with the team. So the other player that looks to be the scratch here is Devin Shore. Now, Devin Shore, he was skating around. If you saw, what was Joey Decord calling it? His hot skate, I think. But there were a few of us in media that noticed that Devin Shore, during the family skate, was skating on his own. He was just taking a lot of selfies. Well, it turns out he was FaceTiming his family. They weren't able to make it in for the skate. But at least according to these projected lines, no Devin Shore. But again, I have a few questions as to the efficacy of this. And sometimes that just happens because, well, the NHL is going off of just roster information, kind of like this roster that we have here, which is the full Seattle Kraken roster, and not necessarily taking in the last handful of games. But let's just go through it. And again, I'll point out some inconsistencies from the projected lineups or the lines that we saw against Philadelphia. Top line, not anything different or drastic there. We're expecting it to be Tomas Tatar, Matty Beniers, and Jordan Eberle. And then we have, of course, McCann, Wenberg, and Tanev, Tolvanen, Gord, and Burakovsky. Well, I have Burakovsky on there twice, excuse me. Well, that's not accurate. It's going to be Tolvanen, Gord, and Bjorkstrand, Burakovsky, Cartier, and Yamamoto. Now, the things, and again, excuse my typo on there, but the things that are a little bit inconsistent from this roster compared to what we've seen from the Seattle Kraken is mostly, right wing, left wing. So just so you have it from Friday's game, here are the lines that we saw. We saw McCann, Wenberg, Tanev, Eberle, Beniers, Tatar, and going left to right. So that's another inconsistency that I saw from the paper I showed you on screen. And then Tolvanen, Gord, Bjorkstrand, again, that was my error on the graphic. And then Yamamoto on the left, Cartier centering, and Burakovsky on that right side. So I know that Dave Haxtell has talked about wanting to give Ty Cartier different roles. And so one of these, as we can see or as I just walked through, he was projected and did play some center ice for the Seattle Kraken. So it seems like there might be some opportunity to also get Ty Cartier involved when it comes to special teams, give him a little bit more responsibility. So it seems like he's in good standing. Again, no Riker Evans. At least I haven't heard Dave Haxtell specifically talk about that with the Winter Classic. As you can imagine, a lot of the media availability has been focused on this event more so than even the matchup. And so we haven't really heard Dave Haxtell explicitly talk about that. But I want to show you video that I have of the Seattle Kraken walking into T-Mobile Arena. As some of you may know, the Winter Classic is known for having a little bit of flair. The guys get to have a little bit of fun, whether it's what they wear on the ice. Not sure we'll see any aviator glasses like Philip Grubauer has worn in the past, but everything from their helmets. Matty Beniers, if you're watching on NHL Network, they just showed a segment where he walks through the design of his custom Winter Classic sticks. There's just all of these things. And that, of course, includes what the fellas get to wear walking up. And so here is a video that I took from the walk-ups led by the one and only Marshawn Lynch, the Seattle Kraken walking into T-Mobile.
What are they wearing? Am I right? Okay, I knew it.
So there you have it, the Seattle Kraken walking up in what I've been told are called waders. I would call them overalls personally, but I've also heard them called, although I think those are more the jumpsuits, but like coveralls or something like that. I think it was pretty cool, obviously very Seattle. Jordan Eberle talked to media prior to the game today and said he didn't think the hat in the orange and the hat matched the overalls all that well. He also teased that Adam Larson tried on the overalls without an undershirt, and apparently that was nixed. There were some other options that the Seattle Kraken thought of when it comes to their wardrobe. Apparently they were very, quote, serious, according to Jordan Eberle, but they went ahead with the overalls. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights, they did show a little bit of bare skin, bare chest with their deep, I mean, this is a deeper V-cut than even Larson wears. It was a super mega deep cut, like almost seeing the belly button, but they were wearing, of course, white Elvis suits, maybe if you want, saying they walked in all as Elvis impersonators. So they had a little bit of fun with it as well. I think overall, pretty solid, a little bit cheesy, but that's kind of the Vegas vibe overall. It's just very extra. I thought it was super low key, but very Seattle for the Kraken. But let me know in the comments, what did you think? I didn't show you the Vegas warm-ups, or walk-in outfits, but you saw the Seattle Kraken ones. But coming up, let's get into the hockey part of this contest, because there are still 2 points on the line. This is a divisional matchup. And again, the Seattle Kraken like where they are. They like the momentum that they're carrying into this game. But now they have to make good against a team that historically we have not played great against. So coming up on this episode, this live stream of Locked On Kraken on Monday, January 1st, 2024. Let's talk about my 3 keys to the game, and of course, I'll give you some stats and facts to know before the puck drops. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. Your host, Erica L. Ayala here. A reminder, you can listen to the Locked on Kraken podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can certainly watch on YouTube. Hi, YouTubers. And you can listen on the Sirius SXM app. And you can also listen to Kraken games on Sirius SXM. So make sure you check that out. Search Locked On. Of course, first Locked On Kraken, but you can find all of our Locked On shows on Sirius SXM. Let's go over the stats and facts coming into this game. The 2024 part of the season starts. Whoops, that's the Philadelphia one. Pardon me. The 2024 part of the season starts today against Vegas. I told you we got a good win against a solid team when we took on the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday. But this is a whole different beast. And again, Vegas is not a team that we've played particularly well against. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Here's the right graphic for you. January 1st, 2024, here at T-Mobile Park. You can see the overall record, 49 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. They did get back into the win column right before this contest, but we're on a little bit of a skid. Started red hot, including getting a win against us for their home opener, banner-raising ring ceremony. That was a lot of fun. But 49 points overall. Their away record, 9-7-3. The Seattle Kraken, as we've talked about, 14-14-9. 37 points on the season. Their home record, 7-8-3. Technically, this is a home game for them, although they're not at Climate Pledge Arena. You can see in the last 10 games, as I mentioned, Vegas struggling 5-5-0, whereas the Seattle Kraken were able to perform pretty well and have gotten a point and been unbeaten in 8 straight games, or been unbeaten in 4 straight games. A 4-game winning streak, have gained points in 8. Joy Decord, a big piece of that. Let's look at special teams. The power play, a touch better on the Vegas side at a 22.4% clip, 20.9 for the Seattle Kraken. Now the penalty kill, definitely the advantage goes to Vegas at 81.5% clip, 79.6 for the Seattle Kraken. And once again, if we look at the splits on how these teams tend to win games, the Seattle Kraken is going to have to start on time and be the aggressor, really set the tempo coming out of the gate. This is not something historically this season that they've been effective at. However, it is definitely a concerted effort and a focus of the team recently. Let's talk about how these teams traditionally win or lose hockey games. I mentioned it a time or two, and I actually wrote about this on CBS Sports, but 1-goal games. 1-goal games. The Vegas Golden Knights have played their fair share. They are 9-1-5 in 1-goal games. The Seattle Kraken are 9-3-9. So we can definitely get a point in 1-goal games. And we play tight games. That's something that Dave Haxtell has been saying in media leading up to the Winter Classic. He said, quote, we have to get comfortable. He's been telling the guys they have to get comfortable playing these 1-goal games. And that really goes down to personnel and style of play. And we talk about it here on Locked on Kraken all of the time. Things have to go by committee for the Seattle Kraken to be effective. And so William, hey William, thanks for joining. I'm just seeing your comment here. I thought that the first game of the season against Vegas, they looked solid early on. I remember thinking that the Seattle Kraken did enough to hang in with Vegas, but only for a time, because Vegas ends up winning that game 4-1. I don't think historically, and I can't speak to specifically the first game against Las Vegas, but I just think that, again, we hung on. We certainly, what I remember from watching that game is I felt that Vegas set the tempo. And so being able to sustain effectively an attack and to set the cadence of a game are two different things. So that's what Seattle wants to do. And Vegas is a team where they have a lot of offensive weapons. They like to use their speed. They like to use their size and their body. And those are things, I think, especially the last one, where the Seattle Kraken can be vulnerable to any team. But that's what Vegas, I think, is going to try and do against them. Now, when we talk about scoring first, the Vegas Golden Knights are 15-3-2 when they score first. The Seattle Kraken are 9-5-4 when we score first. Now, does it matter if the opponent scores first? Yeah, it sure does. For the Vegas Golden Knights, they are 7-7-3 when their opponent scores first, whereas the Seattle Kraken, 5-9-5. So both teams, you see, they perform better when they score first, but particularly the Vegas Golden Knights, they can find a way to crawl back into games where that's not necessarily been the MO of the Seattle Kraken. But here's the one that always, I think, gets me. The Seattle Kraken, when trailing after 2 periods of hockey, after 40 minutes of hockey, are a whopping 1-12-3. 1-12-3 when we are at a goal deficit heading into the third period. Now, things don't necessarily get better for Vegas in this category. They are 2-6-2. And both teams have a winning record when they go into the third period tied, but not a lot of their games have been played at that clip. But 1-12-3. So as much as starting early and starting on time is a point of emphasis for the Seattle Kraken, finishing games, that's been a massive problem, especially early on for the Seattle Kraken. And they have to be able to close out games. Saw that they didn't score until the third period against the Philadelphia Flyers, but they got the win with that goal by Justin Schultz in overtime. Just a really good feel-good moment for the Seattle Kraken, obviously for Justin Schultz, who'd been out of the lineup really. Now, we're not expecting to see him out because, as I talked about out in the near future, because as I talked about at the top of the show, no more Riker Evans. So, we'll see what that means. I know a lot of people, either through our subtext and Locked On Insiders community, or even when I posted on social media saying, well, maybe this has to do with salary cap. Maybe it's to make sure Justin gets some games so that if we need to move him at the trade deadline, then we're not dropping his stock. I think it also could be just maybe the Seattle Kraken, they want to rely on Justin Schultz a little bit more. Dave Haxtell was very complimentary of Justin, especially the kind of person that he is for the Kraken in the lineup. If you're watching NHL Network, you can see the Kraken players playing a little bit of footy outside. It looks like that's Devin Shore with the glasses on there. So the guys are having a good time. It's pretty solid weather here for the Winter Classic. Anyway, let's talk about my 3 keys to the game. We're expecting to see Joy Decord start. That's that number 1 key right there. Just as we've seen all season, just as we saw last year, and in the wins that we collected in season 1, the Seattle Kraken rely on their goaltending to be above average. We've talked about Joey Decord. He's got a lot of quality starts this season, saving, sometimes almost 3 goals above average for the matchup. So we're going to have to see Joey Decord once again step up for the Seattle Kraken. I think another thing when we look at this Vegas team is the Seattle Kraken continuing to focus on their defensive efforts, particularly pushing Vegas to the outside. I show you heat maps all the time. We're not going to do that on this live show today. But when we look at heat maps, especially when the Kraken were struggling with what was that 7-8 losses that we had, they were giving the slot, basically high slot, mid slot, low slot, right in front of the crease, wide open for our opponents. And those, for me, as you know, if you are an everydayer or an OGer, come from blown defensive assignments. They come from watching the puck and not watching the trailer, not watching the far post, and thus not helping your goaltender. So First key is goaltending. My second key to the game is to keep Vegas on the outside. And my third one, it's just my 3 Fs. So I guess technically I have 6 keys, but the 3 Fs I consider as one whole thing. And if you listen to the show, and I know that Nick Olchek agrees with me on this, but my 3 Fs are fast, using our speed, forechecking. Absolutely, the Seattle Kraken are at their best when the forecheck is on point, and then have fun. We're such a better team when we're playing loose, when we're unified, when the guys are just having a good time. And there is no better time to really hit that third F, F-U-N, than on January 1st, 2024, when the team is hosting the Winter Classic. I think the field looks amazing. We're expecting a sold-out crowd. Sir Mix-a-Lot, Hart. We've got Black Girl Hockey Club in the house. We've got, the young youth junior hockey skating out on the pond right now. This is huge. This is a huge event, and we've been hearing and talking to the players about the marquee event. But a lot of what they say in response when they ask about the Winter Classic is that this is an opportunity to create memories with their families, with their friends, and yes, with their teammates. So I want the Seattle Kraken to have fun, to lean into this, because you know what else is at stake here, so to speak, is the national audience being able to see what Seattle has to offer to hockey culture. And I think that's super exciting, and I cannot wait to see how it's received. But at the end of the day, those 3 Fs, playing fast, being strong on the forecheck, and having fun, those will be the keys to the game for the Seattle Kraken to get a win. As long as it's not an embarrassing loss, I'm here for it. Well, listen, I'm not aiming for that. The Seattle Kraken are trending in the right direction. They have a solid goaltender in Joey Decord, and they know that there is a lot at stake. 2 points in the standings, a divisional opponent who's shown a little bit of chinks in their knight's armor, if you will. So this is a game to go get. So, yeah, I hear you. Nobody wants to be embarrassed on national television, but you can't think that way. That's like what we hear Everly say. You have to find ways to win instead of trying not to lose, or however that phrase goes. But he says it a lot, and that's what I think the Seattle Kraken need to do. Change the mentality. Don't think about not losing in a bad way. Think about winning in the Kraken way. And again, that's playing fast, good on the forecheck. And I say our guys play their best when they're having fun. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I really hope that you enjoy the festivities that are the Winter Classic. Make sure you stay locked, if you will, on the Locked On Kraken YouTube page. For over 1,000 subscribers. I'm so grateful for those of you who are subscribed. If you're not, it's not too late. Go ahead, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you'll get the updates when I upload some of our behind the scenes and just a lot of stuff that I captured that I haven't had a chance to post everything just yet. I think it'll give you a good overview of what we're seeing here at the Winter Classic. As always, I say this every show, but make sure to be kind to yourself. It's the start of a new year. Maybe it's the start of a new you. I don't know. But be kind to yourself. Take some time for yourself. And of course, when you do that, you can be kind to others. But today we say loud and proud. Maybe not the loud part for me today. My throat is a little bit sore. But for you, I hope you say loud and proud. Hold fast. Stay true. And of course, let's go Kraken. Happy New Year. Happy game day. And I hope you enjoyed this one, Seattle. I sure am. I'll talk to you on the next episode of Locked On Kraken. Peace out. And I forgot my end screen, so now you get to see me wave. All right. See you. Peace out.